10th century, Central Europe consisted of dozens self-governed and divided against themselves tribal authorities. Despite speaking one language, having same pagan beliefs and similar economic development. One of the biggest and most influential tribes was the tribe of Polans, governed by the Piast dynasty with a firm hand of a young prince, Mieszko I. Mieszko's father knew that expansion was the only way to halt the never-ending quarrel and broaden the influence of the Piast family, so, on his deathbed, he made Mieszko promise that he would be the one to unite the tribes under one nation, whatever the cost. Consequently, Mieszko carried out his quest with the dignity of cunning ruler, making treaties and winning allies amongst other tribes, expanding the jurisdiction of Poland. Yet, ambition is much like addiction, and Mieszko's unyielding expanse was bound to rattle a cage or two. Soon, Mieszko I started a ruinous clash with Orton tribes. The other lands were fertile and abundant, so Mieszko wasn't the only leader aspiring to dominate it, and Poland entered the sphere of German influence, who started to support the northern tribes. As a result of this clash, Mieszko was forced to pay a tribute to the German emperor. The prince knew the homage was the only way to secure the unity of newly formed Poland's nation and a real way to avert the otherwise indubitable invasion of German forces. Mieszko knew the tribute was crippling the Poland's economy and was just a quick fix for the big problem of a young nation stuck between powerful nations. The pagan Polans were considered heathens, what gave the progressive West a political mandate for edification. Mieszko figured that the formidable ally will give his people protectorate and promptly started a diplomatic relationship with Bohemian ruler Bolesław I. As a result of these negotiations, Mieszko was to renounce his pagan ways and marry Bolesław's daughter Dobrawa in exchange for latitude in dealings with the northern tribes. In order to secure the deal, Princess Dobrawa was sent to meet her future husband. And alongside her entourage, I, a humble monk, as a part of Christianizing mission of the Poland state. However, as the negotiations only just began, the boiling north realized that there will be no better time to attack. Under the banner of an outlaw German Count Wichmann, who wanted a share of the other lands as well, the tribes rushed Mieszko's lands. Mieszko was fully aware of the gravity of his decisions. The Poland state was still under fire of German forces that used Christianization as an excuse for its forays. Dobrawa's mission was to convince Mieszko of Christian ways. To make it short, and only due to my responsibilities as a chronicler, I must mention that her charm was enough for the prince to rebuff his 7 pagan wives. The decision seemed simple enough. On a cold morning of 966, Mieszko I was baptized. As a Christian, Mieszko could finally secure the territory of an acknowledged Polish nation. Mieszko was about to place a final blow to the rebellious northern tribes and become the first ruler of the Polish nation. Wichmann's death was not only satisfactory for Mieszko due to personal reasons, most importantly, the success in the north strengthened the newly brewed alliance between Poland and Bohemia, proving Mieszko's choices right. What is more, through the adaptation of Christianity, Poland were no longer in danger of invasions for the purpose of Christianization. The baptism sparked the development of education and culture through clergy, as well as an improvement in the state of administration and diplomacy. Appropriately, Poland started paying a tribute to the Pope, as now it has become a part of a greater European family. Mieszko's family also grew, as Dobrawa gave him a strong heir, Bolesław, named after her father. Despite Mieszko's efforts, however, the troubles did not end. Mieszko's brother himself, reported of a problem in the west. One of the conquered tribes asked the German nobleman Margrave Hodon for help in exchange for their serfdom. This arbitrary action, without emperor's consent, sparked not only a rebellion, but a full-blown invasion of German forces on Poland. While Czcibor was busy slowing down Hodon's armies, Mieszko sought refuge in outpost of Cedynia. Surprisingly enough, Mieszko did not seem troubled by the outcome of the mission. Quite the contrary. Mieszko's plan was to stage retreat and bait Hodon's forces to attack on the outpost, where he could hold his ground against much more assailants than in the open field. As his troops prepared for the defense, Mieszko's brother, Czcibor, got his best warriors ready to flank Hodon's forces. Czcibor's mission was to target the best knights in Hodon's army in order to disrupt its ranks and wreak havoc amongst the infantry. The war with Hodon ended with Poland's territory finally secured. However, Mieszko and Hodon no longer conduct solely on their own behalf. As a part of a Christian union, they've been called to the imperial diet in Quedlinburg, where they were to face the judgment of the Emperor Otto I. Otto I mediated the truce between Hodon and Mieszko. Mieszko held the dependency of the western territories, but the prince was also obliged to send Bolesław as a hostage to the imperial court, despite Hodon being an instigator in this quarrel. Little they knew, experience gathered by young Bolesław will help him become the first king of Poland that will not only cement Poland's position in Europe, but expand its influence even further. Nevertheless, due to Mieszko's policy, conquest and diplomacy, Slavic tribes in Central Europe were united. The prince is considered a founder of Poland, and the Piast dynasty ruled over and expanded the country's territory, becoming one of the most powerful nations in Europe.